Hello, everybody, and welcome to ALD No Limits. I'm Christy with ALD.
And I'm Ken with AMN. Our special guest this episode is Alexis, the 2024 ALD Connect Ambassador of the Year. Welcome to ALD No Limits.
Thanks for having me. Fellow other ambassadors, by the way.
Yes, we're part of the secret club, right? The ambassador club.
We're working getting all of them. We still have some to get.
And stay tuned. Stay tuned. There might be some fun in Utah. So coming up at the next ALD Connect, annual meeting, the ALD ambassadors might be hosting something special. So stay tuned.
We're a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yes. That's the main point, right? We win this prize because we're fun. But Alexis, it's so great to be here with you today. You've been on our list for a while, and I'm so glad we finally get the chance to sit down and talk with you.
Likewise.
So thank you. So before we get into your ALD journey story, tell us about yourself.
It's always everyone's favorite question. So I'm a mom to two young boys. When I'm not advocating in the ALD community, and I'm not a mom, I went to law school, became a lawyer, and I hated it. So I ended up working in a field where I can still use my law degree, but I get to work with people more or less. So I work in philanthropy primarily and planned giving. So when people want to include philanthropy in their estate plans, I primarily work on that. So that's what I do in my day job. And then I think working in philanthropy, I have a love for philanthropy. So my kids go to a local preschool and it's on a farm. And so I recently started a nonprofit for their little preschool and like outdoor education based centers in our little town. So that's what I'm doing for the most part right now.
You're not busy at all.
No, never. It's not a dull moment in my house.
And like you're talking about your day job, you're talking about your side hustle, this nonprofit. Yeah. You do so much volunteer work as well. Can you share a little bit about that?
Right. I think it makes me fulfilled. So everyone always jokes around, like in my family, that I tend to stretch myself thin, but it's just, there's so many things that light my fire and like fuel my passions. And I think that volunteering is one of those cups that I really always need to fill. Yeah. And so whenever there's anything with ALD Connect, obviously I'm the first to jump on that. And I know that there's been a few other entities that have been popping up. Cure ALD is another one that's popping up that I'm really starting to dip my toes into and put on my list of things to do in terms of dedicating time. I do things locally in our community outside of the ALD world when I can. My husband laughs at me that I'm not even on the PTA really, but here I am volunteering at their preschool all the time. And I think there's a lot of other causes out there that I like to kind of dip my toes into. I was in a sorority when I was in college. And so that automatically comes with a philanthropy component. And so whenever I can dedicate time to causes that kind of mean something to me, I'm usually the first one to line up in terms of volunteering and giving back in any way that I can.
Nice. We need more people like you in the world. That's awesome. So, and you're located in Florida.
I am in Florida. I'm in a very small town on the East Coast. I tell people usually that I'm in between where like Cocoa Beach is where the Space Center is, and like Palm Beach, if you were to draw a midpoint there, I'm pretty much smack dab in the middle. I'm in a small town, Vero Beach. I was born and raised here. I left for college and law school, and then I made my way back down to Florida, and my husband and I bopped around a little bit. So we were in Orlando and Miami. COVID came around, and I thought it would be great to go live with my parents for 2 weeks to flatten the curve in more of a rural setting, because being in a big major metropolis city like Miami, when everything is shut down, was and in a high rise, I was like, this is a nightmare. I spent 40 minutes waiting for an elevator to go down and walk my dog one morning. I was like, I can't be here. So we came back to Vero for 2 weeks to what we thought would be flattening the curve. And 6 months later, we were still here. And I was like, I don't think there's a sign of us going back to Miami. So we settled down, had a family, bought a home, and it worked out. I mean, it's always funny. And in my hometown, you kind of always find your way back here, I feel like. So I found my way back. I always thought I would not, but alas, here I am.
Nice. Well, I'm living in my hometown too, and I had similar thoughts.
Me too.
You know,
see, I thought all of us
gonna get out of Dodge, and here I am. My dad lives across the street. You know, it's just.
My dad laughs at me because we're door to door, 1.1 miles apart, and my dad goes, "You think you kick your kids out, but somehow they find themselves back. And even if it's not actually physically in your home, it'll only be a mile down the road." Thanks so much. I was like, you're lucky I don't live directly next door.
Right. I mean, yeah, I spy on my dad for sure. My kids do too. They have binoculars and they're like, what's he doing? What's he watching on TV?
So my parents to my kids, they're Go-Go and GP. We like pick the most out there grandparent names. And so they always wonder, what are Go-Go and GP doing? And I'm like, well, let's just go pop over and see what they're doing. They're right here.
Drive by. Nice.
So yeah, you get it.
Yeah, we get it. Ken gets it, living in his hometown. So tell us about ALD and how it came into your life, into your world.
Right. So I found out through newborn screening in the state of Florida. And it was the abridged version in a nutshell, really, is we got a call when my son was about 3.5, almost 4 weeks old. And it was from the university. You always try to make the most, I feel like, of your time when you're off work and you're, newly postpartum. And so when I was on my maternity leave, we were in West Virginia in a cabin when he was a brand new baby. And we got a call from the University of Miami, and they were letting us know that there was something that came up on they still call it a PKU screening at some hospitals here. And that there was something flagged on his newborn screening and that we needed to come in person right away tomorrow. And I was like, well, even if we leave right now, there is no shot we will drive through the night and make it from West Virginia to Miami overnight. So we had a telehealth the next day where they let us know that our son was flagged for X-linked adrenoleukodystrophy. I was very much in disbelief. I had gone through prenatal genetic screening on like some 400 gene panel through Quest, and I received a green light just about on everything before we ever tried to have a family. I remember calling my pediatrician at the time, and he was like, there's no way he has this. He was also my pediatrician and now my 30-year-old brother's pediatrician at the time. And he's like, I feel like if you had ALD, I would definitely have known about it through your brother. So I don't think this is right. I think this is a false positive. We had the appointment the next day. We ended up going through a couple of additional rounds of screening, one through Invitae and other through PerkinElmer. And there's really no denying it when it comes back on multiple different tests. We had the blood draws for the very long chain fatty acids. And there really wasn't any getting around the fact that he had it. So we ended up domino effect testing like everyone in my family. So I have it. My 30-year-old brother has it. My mom, her sister. Once her sister came back positive, I had some inclination that statistically it probably came from their father. He's about 91 now, and he does in fact also have it. Given the fact that he has it, I suspect he got it from his mom since it's impossible to get it from his dad. She's no longer living in with us. So I really am capped out on the family tree of tracing it back 5 generations. And that is how I found out about ALD. It was somewhat of a nightmare. I think I really sat in denial for a very long time, especially when I thought I had taken every step, necessary and to avoid any genetic issues. And we landed with one anyway. So it's a little bit of how I learned about ALD.
Yeah. And I think,
It's
you
shocking.
know, it's shocking, especially if there's, you don't really have no indication of it and your child is, I mean, look at your baby.
No.
So just for clarification, this was your younger boy.
Yes,
right?
so I have two sons. Yep, thanks, Christy, for pointing that out. Yeah, so I have two sons. My older son now, Daniel, he's 4. My children are 13 months apart, and it's my younger son. His name Nicholas Lando. We call him Lando, and he was the one who, in fact, came back positive for ALD. So it's my younger son. We did retest my older one once we got the younger one's diagnosis, and he does not, in fact, have ALD. So we really were navigating this with a newborn of, are we sure the other one's okay? How did that happen? And you really learn, I feel like, in those first few months of learning about it, how really it affects some and not others. And between, moms and dads, what your risk profiles are. So I had a 50-50 chance of passing it on. And as the cards fell, my older one did not have it and my younger one did.
But you just followed the prescription for that percentage.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And
you went 50%.
Yep, exactly. I had that 50-50 and I got right there. There you go. There are your odds.
Huh.
Well, beautiful, beautiful baby there, smiling and so cute and such a sweet big brother. I love that picture.
How little they were until you look back at the photos.
Yeah. And we'll see some more photos. I can't wait. So just to kind of talk about that sort of what I call the diagnosis funk, right? Like, yes, there they are. Oh my gosh. Is this a current?
So big. Yeah,
this is a picture. Okay.
This is a current photo. This was about a month ago, but yeah. So it's hard to get 2 boys to stand together in a photo. So this is the most current one I have of the 2 of them where they're actually both acknowledging my existence.
Adorable. So cute. So just to go back to the, when you were learning about all of this, what sort of things were, as your world is crashing, right? What sort of things were a little bit helpful to you, or what things continued frustrating you or challenging, your thought process on all of this?
Right. So I feel like there was those first few months are so difficult. I think it was a lot of hurry up and wait is what it felt like. And I'll never forget, we were still sitting in West Virginia. I've now known about this for about 2 days. And it's like, how do I start following? I think me being a lawyer, my first train of thought was to just dive into research and reading and what is it that I can learn about this condition. Google's not your friend. And so I very much had to put my, my like impartial self, my like very much my neutral self into this and treat it as if this isn't my child. What can I learn? Like if this was like a client or something like that, what can I learn about this? And like take the emotion out of it in a sense, so that I can be the best advocate and parent for this like brand new baby who's literally sitting in my lap like, oh, cool. And I'm calling doctors. I read this. I found the standards of care. I'm immediately looking that up. And I got orders to contact a neurologist. And I remember calling one like as soon as I got off of our first visit with the geneticists, calling a neurologist locally. And it's like, we can see them in 18 months. And I'm like, and that's just for a new patient appointment. That doesn't even include what would be your first MRI. And it's like, goodness. Okay, great. We don't have enough neurologists, and I'm supposed to have this like you're scheduling like an endocrinology appointment, and that comes along with the standard of care as well that I'm reading about. And it's like, oh, cool. Well, we don't have enough of those either. So we can maybe get you in 8 months, but we'll put you on a cancel list. And it's like, he's supposed to have his first blood draw basically now and every 3 months or 3 to 4 months from now. So cool. And I remember navigating the complexities of it with, there are not enough providers in this day and age. And then when you do find providers, I feel like a lot of the local ones don't necessarily know a lot about ALD. And you're really lucky if you can find one locally who is willing to learn about it. But I feel like a lot of them also, they're so inundated with patients that they don't necessarily have the time. And so one of the biggest frustrations for me was, okay, I'm finding all these providers that I know and love and that have been here for me in my lifetime, or are new but are highly recommended but don't know anything about this. And so I can either rely on them to learn it, and I feel like I didn't have much faith in that. And so I've relied on myself. I know I can trust myself. And I also like that sense of control as a parent of, how can I learn everything I can about this so that I can be the best advocate? And it really paid off, because I went to a local neurologist and they're like, okay, I don't know anything about this, so I'm going to let you guide me and you tell me what to order. And I was like, oh, cool. I didn't go to medical school and now I'm telling you what to order. But I think I've learned over time that I'm comfortable in like the knowledge that I've built around it. I'm by all means not an expert, but I feel like I at least know he's supposed to have an MRI, at this point in time. He's supposed to have these kinds of blood draws, throughout this period of time. And it really helped me in terms of like being comfortable with the condition, but also like navigating the complexities that come along with it. It's like that overwhelming need to become an expert overnight, in a sense, from like a parent standpoint. I'm never going to be a medical expert on it, but it helps to be able to advocate for your child in the right sense when I like dive deep into it.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel like I've heard this from so many moms too. It's just like it's like, and dads too, but I think I talk more to moms, right? Like, it's just like gathering that information and knowing, and because there's so much unpredictability in this disease and so much uncertainty, that like, if you can learn as much as possible, at least you have some control over maybe not how it will manifest, but how you're going to manage, care for your child and yourself going forward.
Well, it's the fear of the unknown. Like, I feel like your life pivots and changes so incredibly quickly, like the moment you get diagnosis, that it's like, I felt like I like froze for a minute, and then I immediately went into that like flight mode of like, okay, how do I go ahead and like navigate this pivot of my life, and also navigate the fear of the unknown. And I think for me, a lot of the beginning, I had a lot of anticipatory grief. I don't think that our clinic that gave us our results was very well versed on how to provide or like present this news to families. And so we really left there thinking like we would be lucky if our kids saw 8 and like cerebral was doomsday and like good luck. I'm like, oh, by the way, 40% of, 30 to 40% of children will like get cerebral. So like, good luck beating the odds. And so you're just like kind of realizing that not a lot of people understand your positioning. And so there's a lot of anticipatory grief I felt like I put on myself. And I also feel like it really doesn't help that a lot of moms, you're going through this wave of being postpartum. And I felt for me, this sent me, I was on like cloud 9 those first 3 weeks postpartum compared to my first pregnancy. And I was like, I'm doing great. This is awesome. He's integrating with our life. We're very routine people and he's fitting right in and we're doing awesome. And then I got like diagnosis and I happen to have a follow-up visit for my second postpartum appointment. And between the first postpartum and the second postpartum appointment at my doctor's office, they're like, what happened? And I was like, well, let me tell you. And so it like sent me right into a postpartum depression. And so navigating that was quite a challenge. But it's something that, it shaped me into, I guess, being the advocate that I am and being the volunteer that I can be. And I think helped me almost immerse myself in this community, which I'm absolutely incredibly grateful for.
Yeah. So really taking that, that pain, that heartbreak, and turning it into purpose. And I think that's really inspiring. Amazing. Because you can stay stuck, right? It's kind of it's a decision. And when you're in that like depression and postpartum and the hormones, I just remember
I feel like
holding my baby crying.
I wouldn't even hold him. I couldn't look at him. I felt like that mother bird where, when a human touches the nest or something like that and they like don't come back. Poor Lando. I looked at him and I was like, okay, he's going to die. How do I save myself and like protect myself from like really anticipating losing him? And so I immediately lost all supply. I couldn't really like breastfeed him anymore. We ended up switching over to formula. I didn't want to feed him anymore. I didn't want to hold him. I think that caused a lot of developmental delays because I became so detached from him that I was like, I need to save myself from you're looking at something that you think is going to die. And so that's how I horrifically looked at him for the first about 8 or 9 months. I feel like the first MRI hurdle really helped me get over a lot of the feeling that I had, and meeting with ALD experts. We see Dr. Eichler. I think Dr. Eichler looked at me and he's like, he's fine. Like he's okay. And he's going to do great. And he's doing great, man. This kid is thriving at 3.
He's so cute.
He's so incredibly social. What I thought he was so developmentally delayed, he has caught up and is like already like surpassing so many different things. We did a lot of the early interventions. And so he was in physical therapy, speech therapy, infant toddler development specialist therapy. He's been in feeding therapy. I mean, this poor kid, you name it, he's been there. And now he is a nonstop chatterbox and is running a million, miles a minute and has dominated the monkey bars at school. And
yeah,
nice.
I think for like me, in terms of my relationship with him, I think that first MRI was like the biggest obstacle. And once Dr. Eichler really sat me down and is like, he's okay. Like he's going to be fine. Like there's so many different options now in terms of therapies and, getting, if we meet cerebral or we, surpass that and we meet AMN, like there's so many ways that we can have a fulfilling life. I also found ALD Connect and found a support group so early on, which also really helped me open my eyes to the fact that, okay, he's not going to die. Like, it's okay. Like we can actually we can do this. And I met John Cooter and I was like, this is like, there is hope in the world. This is okay. And it's been a huge difference. And then I think also going to my first ALD Connect conference really also helped because, and I think what the cool thing about going to the conferences is I had never met anyone like Ken with AMN. Like I've been so much in my like newborn screen, like young family, like bubble that I got to meet so many other families. And it was like, oh, cool. How are you? Hi. It's like putting names and faces together. And there's just a big boost in our community that I enjoy.
It's awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Love that. And thanks so much for sharing about your experience postpartum because I feel like it's different for everybody. And, thanks for being vulnerable and just sharing your experience bonding and how that's recovered and you're seeing Lando really thrive. I think that's awesome.
Oh yeah. No, he's doing great. And, no 2 stories are going to be the same. But it's nice to know that there are people out there that can relate to you and maybe in a similar situation. And it makes you feel a little better that you're not completely alone and feeling how you feel. And so I feel like for me, it's like you cling to hope.
Definitely. Yeah. So let's go back to your family. You mentioned several other people in your family, sort of the cascade testing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I feel like family testing is a fun topic to have. Most of my family was right on board when I called. When we got Lando's diagnosis and I subsequently tested myself and came back positive, I immediately called all of my cousins that were right at child like birth or bearing age. And I was like, hey, I don't know if it comes from my mom's side or my dad's side yet, but I want you to know this because you had a family member who maybe got recently married or might be trying to have a family. Let me go ahead and let you know this. I feel like a responsibility in a sense to tell you about this. One of my family members decided that they wanted to go ahead and wait a little longer till we knew which side of the family it came from. The others kind of jumped right into testing. Some of my cousins do want to test and don't. I respect their choices. That's totally on them. And for me, I really craved the data points. My husband is a data scientist by trade. And so we wanted to know, are there any, men in our family that might also have this? And do you kind of have symptoms of adrenal insufficiency, or are you old enough to potentially be experiencing AMN symptoms? And can we talk to you once you test and maybe get your results on what that looks like for you? Because my son, fun fact, at the time we got his diagnosis, he was only the second baby in the United States with his variant that had been identified. So we really were working off of nothing. So he was a variant of uncertain significance. We were placed into the gray zone. And so we were just kind of craving any data point we could get of, I know family history doesn't really take into account, but we were just trying to figure out, one, who in the family even has this, if they do at all. And two, we want to make sure, fingers crossed, no one has passed on early for like maybe a misdiagnosed reason, or does anyone else in our family have something else that is presenting as something else and is just being, mislabeled as well. And some of my cousins tested, some didn't. And I also learned to work through that in a sense of, not everyone is going to partake. And I remember meeting other members of the community where some of their families didn't want to test at all. So I'm incredibly grateful that the number of people in my family tested. I feel like there was no easy way around it. And so my family was blessed enough where we offered to pay for it for all of our families that elected to test. I felt like that was going to be the one pivotal way to get a lot of them to proceed with testing. Some of them, their doctors weren't sure how to order it. They weren't even sure how to approach their doctor about it. Some may not have the greatest insurance and didn't really want to pay the copays associated with it. And at the time, Invitae offered a complete out-of-pocket test option. And so we offered for most of our family members that we would cover the expenses associated with that if they'd be willing to almost serve as a data point for us. And so we were really grateful that a lot of them came forward and at least elected to test so that they could help us out in the long run and help out the next generation of people who may have this variant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So that is interesting. I know it's different, state by state too, and insurance. Yeah.
Insurance is so much fun. Right. And there's so many hurdles too to get certain kinds of genetic testing. We were told that in Florida, they would test 3 of your family members for free. So that included my son, me, and my mom. And then after that, it was okay, they would offer an appointment, but then you had to pay out of pocket for the appointment if you went directly through Invitae, which was $250. And then you had to pay, the test was free. And by then there was an option for you to pick a certain panel, which was only $99. And I was well, at that rate, I might as well skip the appointments altogether and we'll just order it ourselves. Here we go, guys. Right. So, but yeah, it's so different state by state and insurance. And I even had my grandfather's brother, we also tested him and he's in Pennsylvania. And so we were trying to also navigate that as well, just to get as many data points as we possibly could. And he was negative. So that also. Okay.
So take us through the family tree again. So it was you.
Oh yeah. Here we go.
Yeah,
I've got a great whiteboard. So I think that was one of the fires that was fuel. And I became real into genealogy for a little bit. How far can I trace this back? And so Lando was born and he has it. Daniel does not. So that's my first generation I'm working off of. If you go up, I have it. And then I looked at my siblings. I only have one brother. I tested him. He does, in fact, have it. And then I went up another generation. So third generation would be my mom and her sister. And then we went up another generation, and that would be my grandfather. So Nicholas, Orlando's great grandfather. And then I tested him. I actually tested my grandma first because my grandfather was convinced there's no way it could be from him. So we tested my grandma first. We waited for her results to come back, and they were negative. So we tested him, and he also came back negative at first. And I was like, something's fishy here. How are you both negative? But both of your daughters, my mother and my aunt, have it. Yeah. And I found out at the time that Invitae does not always report variants of uncertain significance. So then I had to call back and ask for their VUS reports. And that's what confirmed my grandfather having it. And I remember talking to a lot of my family members, and I was like, all right, I've now got my son, me and my level of generation, my mom and her level of generation, my grandpa, the 4th generation. How far back can I go? It had to have come from his mother, which would be the 5th generation. And it was funny. I was looking at all my brothers, or my grandfather's siblings. So my grandpa was one of 4. He had a brother who died in World War II, and he had a sister who made it to 99. And then he had his brother who tested negative. And so I reached out to his sister. So that would be, I guess, my great aunt. No.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that would be my great aunt. And so I reached out to my grandfather's sister's lineage. And I reached out to them, and I said, hey, I have this condition that's popped up in our family. And I found out that his sister, his name is Margaret, had just passed. And so I was like, unfortunately, we won't know if Margaret ever did or didn't have it. But I want to let you know this could present in your family. I've never met any of these people. And sure enough, they were like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear this. No one in our family has died young. We don't think that exists over here. Sorry that you're going through this. And sure enough, like 5 months later, I got a phone call, and one of the great granddaughters was picked up on newborn screening in Pennsylvania for having ALD. Wow. And so they called me back and were like, hey, actually, we do have this. And the little girl that was born, her father had it, and he is one of 4 brothers. And so we ended up testing them. They tested some of the brothers. They've never reached back out to me for the results. They can do that when they feel comfortable or ready to. But we know that it came from the dad, and he was 36 at the time. They immediately went and saw specialists and got MRIs at CHOP. And so they're now navigating it. And I think 2 of the other brothers, if I believe, I could be wrong, I don't think they have children. And the other one, he has 2 sons, so it would stop there for him. But yeah, and then I remember kind of contacting all my other family members who, have you heard about this? What are your thoughts on this? And I got even more like generational backstories. And I was like, can someone tell me something about like my grandpa, like my grandpa? Can someone tell me about his grandparents and like about that? Someone, please. And they were like, oh, well, one of them died with an unfortunate gunshot incident, like jumping over a fence. Like you go back, like you're looking at like late 1800s into the like early 1900s. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, these stories could totally check out that. Yes, they died early, but it's because they were jumping over a fence with a shotgun when they probably had to hunt their own food back in the day. So I don't feel like everyone has the luck of tracing it back as far as I did, but it like, those early days and those early months consumed me, that I was like, okay, is this presenting somewhere else in my family that I don't know about? Or is it being mislabeled or misdiagnosed? And how can I find it? And then where does it start and where does it stop? And I found peace knowing that I'm never going to be able to find it any later back, but I was pretty proud of tracing it back as far as I did.
I mean, that's pretty amazing to find all of that.
Yeah. And especially since he was only the second, like he was the second child with this variant. And now we have so many more data points. And now people are reaching out to me on Facebook who are like, I've got the same variant. I'm like, oh, welcome. Let's information share.
Right. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
So I guess my question with all of this and being a VUS, are people symptomatic? Do you know of, like, from your family, the folks of the same variant. Is anybody symptomatic?
I'm going to knock on wood on this one.
Yeah.
So
Me too.
In my family and everyone I have directly connected with who has this variant, everyone has been asymptomatic. However, a year ago, we were pushed from a VUS into likely pathogenic because they identified a woman with symptoms, which my logic brain does not wrap, like I cannot wrap my head around it. To me, I thought it would always express itself in a man before it ever expressed itself in a female. But here we are. So we were upgraded to likely pathogenic about a year ago because they identified a woman with symptoms. And then I found out at our April MRI this past year, we were actually pushed to pathogenic now. They found another woman who was also symptomatic. And so I have gone through a lot of whiplash with being reclassified over the past 2 years.
It's really interesting. Okay.
But to date, no men, again, I'm knocking on wood. To date, no men have expressed symptoms in my family between my son, my 30-year-old brother, my 91-year-old grandfather. And I also connected and am in constant contact now with another family. I can't remember if she's in Virginia or North Carolina, but her son was picked up on newborn screening, same variant as ours. He's asymptomatic. Her dad also does not have symptoms. And so she really can't go any further back if I remember correctly. So far, every male data point that I'm working with
really interesting.
Yeah.
No adrenal insufficiency, no gait issues, no bladder and bowel, no cerebral. Fascinating.
Right?
Very interesting. Yeah.
I mean, and that goes to show that there's so many different variants of ALD, and every single one of them, I know it's not tied to a particular variant, but so many people have this condition and it presents itself differently in so many different people. I think that's also very hard for me to wrap my brain around is it just displays differently in every type of individual, regardless of your variant. I mean,
that's what I was going to say is like, did it give you, when you see this, does it provide some type of like almost relief, even though it's not a given? I mean, because everything's different, but in this variant, it's like, seems like the way is paved kind of, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, so I found some comfort in that. And I know I can hear Kathleen O'Sullivan Fortin in the background right now saying that there's the case of the twins who are genetically identical and one presents with symptoms and one does not. And right. I mean, I think that's what I was seeking in the beginning, because I feel like so many different conditions in this day and age, they ask you all about your family history and what does that look like? And even the ALD experts are like, has anyone died in your family at like a younger age or, with this condition? And so I cling to the hope of the family history, even though I'm probably not supposed to. But I think I was just in the early phases, just absolutely seeking some kind of data point, since I had nothing when we first got it. I was like, just give me something to cling to that will give me some sense of hope. Right. And I feel like every time I got a new male data point added, it was like, okay, this is good. This is good. This gives me hope. Like there's a chance at it, like a fulfilling, like normal life. Right. I use that term loosely, but I mean, there's a life where we can have where, he's not, passing at 8 and is, there's no cure or no treatment or anything like that. And so I clung to that. I will say it's a pendulum. I feel like I really built a lot of high hope, and then I feel like it got chipped away a little whenever we were pushed out. I never thought I would crave being back in the gray zone. I really wanted to get out of that in the beginning. Yeah. And now I kind of wish I could go back there, because as I kept getting upgraded, it kind of chipped away at the hope a little bit of like, wow, we're reclassifying, and it's not a fun place to sit in when you're getting reclassified. And I think the way I found out about reclassification was also, I felt it took me back to the PTSD of newborn screening diagnosis day. I found out through Facebook about our first reclassification. They updated us on the adrenoleukodystrophy.info, which is what most of the experts go off of. But Invitae and PerkinElmer, the big testing companies, they still have us classified as a VUS. And so I'm kind of like stuck all over the board of like, what really are we? And according to the experts and like our providers, they go based off of the adrenalleukodystrophy.info database. And so the first time around was actually my sister-in-law's bridal shower. And I found out that morning, someone happened to post on Facebook in an ALD support group and was like, hey, does anyone have this variant? And were you notified that we were reclassified? And I was like looking at it, and I feel like our variant, like our, a slew of letters and numbers and symbols is forever ingrained in my brain of what it is. And I was like, yeah, C184TC, like Pro 52, sir. I was like, yep, that's mine. Yeah. And it was like, yes. Has anyone been notified that we were upgraded? And I was like, I messaged her and I was like, what are you talking about? And can someone tell me what's going on? And she let me know that Kennedy Krieger, that's where they go for their care, had alerted her that they were updating it and they were sending the information on to upgrade and that they found a symptomatic woman. And I was like, cool. Finding out on Facebook about my reclassification. This is super
good.
And of course, it's like an hour before my sister's bridal shower. And I was like sobbing hysterically. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I remember going to our MRI this year back in April. And I was like, hey, it was really crummy to find out that we were reclassified from like a Facebook post. Is there a way to like combat this? Like whenever adrenalleukodystrophy.info like updates, can you all like alert those families?
Right.
And I will never forget Katie Becker sitting there, and she was like, I really hate to burst your bubble, but you're not listed as likely pathogenic. You're listed as pathogenic. And I was like, I threw my hands up. I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she was like, yeah, they identified another individual. And she did some digging, and it turns out that they're also related to the symptomatic woman they found. And I was like, okay, this is cool.
It's a lot though.
Yeah. But it's like a pendulum. Like, you have your days where it's like, okay, I'm going to be down about this today. And then I'm going to move on from it, and it's going to be okay. And like, I feel like you go through waves. And at first I didn't understand like the 6-month increment, like living between MRIs, but now I get it. And I feel like it's also like those few weeks leading up to the MRIs when all this stuff comes back up. And then you have the MRI and then you get news like that. And then it's like, you go home and you're upset for like a week or two. And then you're like, okay, I have a routine and a life I have to live again. And I got to make sure my kid gets to school by 9 and life. And it takes you away from that. So I feel like it's a constant roller coaster of up and down, but it's okay.
I couldn't agree more. Roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We get through it.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. But
well, I think it's interesting. I mean, we've talked to a lot of people just about this like hope, and like what brings you hope. And I think it's okay wherever you land and wherever something brings you hope. I met someone not long ago hoping to perhaps interview her. Her child went through treatment, and the way she talks about it is so awesome. Like it gave me hope, because I always go to like, okay, that's worst case scenarios. My kid would go through treatment, right? And that's very scary to me. And I think, so many things could happen, and what would I do with my daughter? And I just, all of these thoughts.
It's like if you're a type A person, you're like constantly like, I'm a planner by nature. And so for me, it was like, okay, how do I plan for this? And I think if you're religious, it was kind of like God's way of smacking me back of like, I have tried to plan everything in my life out. Like I knew when I was young what career I wanted to have, and when I ideally wanted to get married, and when I wanted to start a family, like age-wise, roughly. And it's like everything's been working out so well, and it's like smacking you out of that. And it's like, no, you can't. It really taught me that I need to let go a little more, and I cannot plan for every scenario. But then you get exactly like you're saying, like you try to then plan for every worst case scenario now that you have this diagnosis. And it's like, you can do that every now and then, and it's okay. And everyone likely will, but you also have to sit back and step back and let go a little bit of like, take it one day at a time, live your best life.
Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so the woman whose child had been through the transplant, like, she's like, he's doing great. Like, I have no complaints and everything's wonderful. And I just like, I really was like, okay, I needed to hear that story today. And I think, hearing some other stories of hope, like, it's helpful. John Cooter, you mentioned before. And I said, I share that, same feeling of like, geez, he's been through this and he's living proof that like, you can go through this and be a successful human and get married and all the things.
Yes.
He's engaged. So that's why I had to mention that.
Oh, that's exciting. I just love that he was like transplanted back in like, I think it was the late 90s, like 98 or 99. And now he's like an engineer in Arizona. And I'm like, this is so cool.
Right. And yeah, because we broke it right here on ALD No Limits that he's off the market. So yeah, it's
exciting.
So let's talk about your support team, right? Like who supports you on a daily basis? I mean, we've talked about all of these challenges, the ups and downs, the roller coaster. Who supports you? Who do you go to when like, oh my gosh, the day of the baby shower, for example, like who do you go to who's going to like lift you back up and be like, come on, you got this.
Yeah. I found therapy. I always thought I was going to be that person that went through life where I didn't really understand. Like, I felt like everyone had a therapist, and was I weird for not having one? And I found therapy. I think I needed to work through a lot of the anticipatory grief. And so big support system there and helping me navigate all of this, and also to help me be more level-headed and help me be the best parent that I can be. I think my family is my biggest support system and has been my rock through all of this. And so my mom definitely lifts me up. And sometimes she's the right person to go to, and sometimes she's not. I'm a little bit more of like the stronger personality and more of like the ice queen of the family some days. And my mom is the emotional one. And so on day of the bridal shower, no shot was I going to tell her that, because she would have been a hysterical mess the rest of the day. So I think for certain tidbits of information and certain things, like I'm lucky enough that I have a support system where I can go to certain people and talk to them about certain things within the ALD like community and what comes my way and what I can push off. And so like my mom finding therapy to help me work through all of this, my husband, other ALD parents too, especially when it's like, are you going through this? Is this something you've experienced? What should I be doing next? Like looking up to people in the community. I think it was also really enjoyable for me to meet you, Ken, and a lot of the individuals at ALD Connect, and like to see like, okay, my son could like totally be like a badass lotto king like Ken, and like this is so cool. And like finding other ALD patients and ALD Connect was really a big thing for me. I go to our providers when I need them, and I need the support from like a medical perspective. And also my friends, like I think part of the reason we personally landed on, you're getting this news, you have this newborn, you're trying to pick a neurologist if your local one isn't working out for you like ours did. And we were like, where do we land? We know there's like 6 big centers and there's a few others scattered in between that. And we landed on Boston. And it was a special place for us because I happen to go to law school in Boston, and I have a lot of friends that stayed and grew up in Massachusetts. And so I already had a support system in place in Boston. And so my older one, since he does not have ALD, those first 2 MRIs, he stayed home. My husband, also part of my support system, really kept normal life going for my older son. And when we went up for our first 2 MRIs for my younger one, I let all my friends know, like, hey, we're in town, first MRI. And like, I'll never forget, like all of them coming to dinner at Beantown Pub in the heart of downtown Boston. And we all had like dinner together, and to see everyone and have that support really meant a lot to me. And so now I make it a point whenever we go for MRIs to let them know. And believe it or not, when we did this duck boat tour at our last MRI, we brought the whole family. We went over spring break. So my parents came, my husband and my older son came. And one of my friends, my best friend's Meg, she has a little boy, Leo, who's actually right, I think, in between Daniel and Lando's age, or just younger than Lando, I think. No, he's just younger than Lando. He came on the duck boat tour with us. And so it's really cool to also have like your support system like join in. And it really helps the appointments and like the traveling for us to go from Florida to Massachusetts for the appointments not feel like we're traveling for a medical appointment, but more or less make it feel like this is a fun trip and we happen to have a medical appointment. And I think that's another big piece I would tell people. I think the first 2 years, I really treated the appointments as we are traveling for medical purposes. And like, I will try to sprinkle a fun thing into it. And this year, I think it was really nice to pivot the mindset of we're going to make this a vacation where we're going to have a couple of appointments and an MRI. And I think that did really great wonders for my mental health. I didn't feel as stressed out traveling. And I think travel days were like initially like so sad. And like, it's like, okay, we're going in and I'm like having all this anxiety about like, what will the MRI say? And like, this was really like, we're going to go up and we're going to stay at a fun hotel and I've got a duck boat tour booked and we're going to go hang out on the frogs on, Boston Common. And, oh yeah, we have an MRI appointment and I have to go to Mass General and walk through the doors of Yawkey and go through the medical center there now. And it's like, it really helped me shift my mindset of the trip because of the support system that I have. And I think that it really helps to make sure that you have people in place. And I'll go to different people for different things. But the friends who have stayed with me when things got hard was it's hard. When you kind of dump this information on a lot of your friends, a lot of them like don't understand and they might shy away from it. But it's been really nice to have people who have stuck by me and also try to learn a little bit more about it or like send me a page where I can like read on this so I can understand what you're going through. So You have your people for different times and places, I feel like.
I love that. That's so great. It sounds like you have a ton of people that are supporting
whether they want to be my people or not, I'm making them my people. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's talk about you for just a second here. You're asymptomatic, female with ALD, but you're asymptomatic.
Mom is as well. I was going to ask about mom. She's asymptomatic.
Mom is asymptomatic as well. I think even if she were to become symptomatic, she would be that person that's like, I'm not calling. Nope. Some days she jokes around because she was a military brat and she played hard growing up. Like she grew up in a traditional military family where she was one of the boys. She was playing tackle football with her two brothers and they would like bury her face in the sand and she's real tough. And so some days she'll joke around with herself of like, if she ever has like a day where she like tweaks her knee playing tennis, she'll be like, I don't know if this is ALD or OLD. But I'm going to go ahead and go.
That's a good one. I like that.
I'm going to go with OLD. And so a lot of, she's asymptomatic and anytime now we kind of just like try to be, we joke around in our family. Like, I think we are fluent in English, but also sarcasm and humor. And that's what gets us through a lot of our struggles as a family is to find a way to like, at least laugh about it a little bit. And so anytime she might like have a day where like her knee is off or something, it's usually because of tennis or some other sport. And she equates it to growing up being really tough and swimming in the pool for hours on end and all these things. She was like, I don't know if it's ALD or OLD. I'm going to accept OLD.
That's great. OLD. Wait, we got that.
That is a great quote. Yes.
So, yes.
Is it ALD
we can
or OLD? I love it.
Quote. Yes, you can quote Lisa on that one. Lisa's got some funny jokes and ALD versus OLD is her living one. So
that's a good one.
But yeah, no, asymptomatic and we're
lucky and I'm a little jealous,
taking that a day at a time. I feel like again, it presents differently in everyone and I'm hopeful that, I stay asymptomatic. I know I'm at the prime age and I monitor. I ended up getting a baseline MRI for my brain and spine at one point. So that way we could also monitor that. Things are changing every day for women and we don't know what it looks like, 5 or 10 years from now. And I want to stay ahead of the curve. And I know the standard of care is like, we're exploring that a little bit more for women. And so I want to stay on top of that as it comes and kind of fingers crossed stay this way, but we take it a day at a time.
That's right.
That's good inspiration. So
Right.
couple more questions.
Yeah.
One, what would you tell a family? What advice would you give a family of a baby who just got diagnosed on newborn screen?
Newly diagnosed parents. Gosh. You don't need to become an expert overnight. Please don't do that to yourself. Stay off Dr. Google as much as you can. I know it's really hard. But take it one step at a time. I mean, there's going to be fear and unknowns, but there's also going to be joy. And diagnosis is only part of your story. It's not all of it, and it's not the end of it. And so what you do with your diagnosis is like your story to write, really. That's my biggest piece of advice, I think. I mean, I did a lot with mine. I was like, I'm not going to let it define me, but I want to immerse myself in it. And between like ALD Connect Ambassador of the Year and like finding experts. And then I volunteer also. I totally forgot this one. I was appointed by our state surgeon general in Florida about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago now, to our genetics, newborn screening and advisory community, GenSAC, yeah. So I help with Florida newborn screening overall, not just for ALD, and what does that look like for new families. And we toy with new conditions that used to be added on the RUSP that are now being just introduced at the federal level. Do we adopt them? If it's not on the RUSP, some things come up through legislation in Florida. And so we're really the pioneer in the committee for Florida on making recommendations on whether or not we are going to newborn screen new conditions or not. And so it's a fun part of my story. And I think helps me be a better advocate as well for other conditions now of how can I take what I've gone through in terms of what I've learned about XALD, and how can I help other families who also might be going through different kinds of conditions, and do we add them, do we not? And it's a really fun time to hear all these ethicists come and talk to you about, you know, if you have a duty to treat or a duty to test, you also have a duty to treat. And I learn a little bit about, you know, something every day. And I think in my mind, I'm someone who loves learning and loves to be educated on new things. And so this has been really eye-opening on outside of ALD. What are other people with other conditions going through, and how can I help them? And don't let it define you, but let it be, you know, it's part of your story and you navigate it.
Right. Awesome. And we need to compare notes here because I knew you were on that committee.
Yes.
I was hoping you were going to touch on it. And I'm on the Massachusetts Newborn Screening Advisory Committee. We need another meeting to sort of compare notes and
let's
chat.
go, because I would love to chat with you about Krabbe, because that is a hotly contested topic in Florida that I won't dive into, but we have been tabling it and pushing it off, and we have been like at a standstill in terms of a vote for like the past 3 meetings we've had over the past 1.5 years. And our centers, unfortunately, can't get the testing down to like a set time. And if we want to save lives, you usually have to like transplant within 30 to 40 days. And none of our centers can get it below 45. Like we have no chance at saving someone. And so it's like, how do we get better as a state so that we can save lives? It's a fun time over here. I would love to hear how it's going in Mass.
Well, we did vote in, was it January?
Yeah.
I think January.
You're doing
March. It? Might have been March. We voted to pass Krabbe.
You're doing the thing. All right. I want to hear about this.
But it was a process. So I'm happy to talk to you at another time about that. But it's good work and awesome that you're doing that.
Oh, yeah. Anything.
So Ken, it's about that time, right, Ken?
It is that time. Now that we've discussed all of that, if you could have one day without ALD, what are you doing?
This sounds very cliche, but I feel like I would just be fully present.
Yeah.
And I feel like at some point at any given day, I'm always thinking about it depends on the season. Because I feel like with ALD, you go through seasons. You go through like MRI season, you go through endocrinology blood draw season, you go through the appointments for both of those seasons or the next lab. And I feel like it would be nice to spend a day without thinking about the next MRI, the next lab result, what his future will look like, or like if my brother has kids, what does his kids' future look like? And I feel like it would be nice to go just one day without thinking about it.
Right.
Just be present.
Be present. That's
Worry
great.
about the laundry and other things and
yeah.
all the other things you need to get done, right?
Right.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I understand the headspace ALD takes up.
Oh yeah,
a lot of people would be there. Yeah, that's not one of the things they put other things first, but that's a big one. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to like. I mean, there's so many things I could say, but it's like I don't like focus on like one day. Right. Just be fully present and like immerse myself in like a family fun day is I think what an ideal world is. Because it's hard looking at your kid too when you know he has this condition and to not think about it. Or like anytime something else pops up where it's like he had to get eyeglasses and now he had to, you know, he also unfortunately had to redo like his newborn hearing screen when he was young. And it's like to go to think of like 10 and also like you move past those spaces, but also you get through spaces in your life where you like kind of like look back at it. And it's like to not even have a look back either.
Yeah, exactly. No look backs and
no look backs, no looking forward, no like at like
having it in the back of your mind.
Yeah, you know, just a day of not thinking about it at all. Is a dream day at this point.
With you. That sounds good to me. Well, thanks so much for chatting with us today.
Yes.
This was such a meaningful time, and you had so many great insights, especially for families, you know, newly diagnosed, and we appreciate your honesty, your vulnerability, and sharing all aspects of it.
I love to help, whatever I can do. And I know that you all know this, but anytime I can help someone, the next family, be a sounding board, I'm here for it. Whatever I can do to help.
Here for it.
All right. And to our subscribers, hope you loved this episode. Indicate that below. And also subscribe if you haven't subscribed already.
Yes.